Before we get started with today's serial killer case, I wanted to note that I did say what he did to the bodies in this episode in the most blunt and crass way possible, just to really emphasize how disgusting this man was to his victims. So if you are disturbed by foul language, just skip this episode and we will see you next week.
Hello and welcome back to Crimax. Again, we are switching roles today. I am going to be telling you your fun fact, and Courtland is going to be telling you your story. Who are we talking about today?
Someone called Edmund Emil Kemper III.
It's just Ed Kemper.
Just Ed Kemper. I know nothing about this story, and for the most part, I'm blind reading it. So
I love this case. I know a lot about this one, so I'll add stuff in. I didn't add to your script, of course. He's known as the co-ed killer, which is funny to me because his name is Ed. Co-ed killer.
No, that's not
I think it was kind of funny. He has a lot of nicknames, but he's 6'9". He's a really big guy, and he's still alive today, but I did write the script as a past tense since he's no longer an active serial killer. So are you ready for my fun fact?
Sure.
So my fun fact today is about serial killers because people find them attractive, right? Like, there's like tons of fangirls that are serial killers and stuff all the time. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, Hannibal.
Well, I meant like real life ones. Like, people think Ted Bundy was hot and stuff.
Grody.
Yeah. Okay, well, there's this thing called hybristophilia, what is an attraction to an extremely violent criminal or a person who has committed a gruesome crime.
That's you.
I don't find these people attractive. Now, I'll tell you if someone's hot or not, but I don't find serial killers in general attractive. I find them fascinating, but people who have hybristophilia find, like, violent criminals and serial killers and people who committed terrible things attractive, which is kind of a weird condition, but everybody has their weird thing, I guess.
And before you know it, it'll become a disability claim in America.
Having a certain attraction to people?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. But are you ready to get today's case?
Let's do this. I have not proofread this, so I know nothing about it.
Well, I know a lot about it, so I'll tell you if you say something wrong.
So Edmund Emil Kemper III, because there's three of them apparently, was born on December 18th, 1948 in Burbank, California. Of course.
You hate California crimes.
No, I don't hate California. It's either California or Texas.
That's where every bad thing originates from?
Have we done anything that isn't California,
yes, we
Texas?
have.
One. I think we did one that I can
Literally, our
vaguely
first case,
recall.
Maura Murray, was not in either one of those.
Yeah, but that wasn't a murder thing. That was just a strange disappearance. Yeah, mystery.
I mean, if you think about the second episode, we did Snea Phillips. She disappeared in New York City on 9/11.
But again, that's not like a serial killer.
Okay, well...
I'm talking about all of our serial killer cases or murder cases.
We did cover the Jacksonville Strangler, but he was from California, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. He was a middle child and only boy in his family. He stood out at an early age for his height and also started showing disturbing behaviors early on as well.
Ooh, also, he was a 13-pound newborn.
Good Lord.
I know! Both of his parents were tall, but not nearly that tall. He's 6'9".
And they decided to have another one?
I know, right? After that, you feel like you'd be done.
I mean, after that, it would be destroyed. Nah, I'm just kidding.
No.
It's very resilient. At 10 years old, he buried a cat alive, and once it was dead, he dug it back up and put its head on a spike.
You know how I feel about decapitation. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, you guys, I did not leave out the details of what he did with the bodies. Every other person who covers this case, because we know he's a serial killer, right? Every other person who covers this case, like, glosses over it because it's too gruesome. I'm going to tell you what he did. Well, I guess you're going to tell him what they did.
Yeah, and I haven't read this, so I have no clue where it is.
Well,
so it'll be a surprise for everyone. All right? But I'm wondering is, I mean, at 10 years old, this dude, this kid is just like unsupervised that he's burying cats, digging them up and spiking their heads.
You know what's a very common thing is animal torture for serial killers is the first warning sign.
Yeah, but I mean, at 10 years old, what are his parents doing? They're just like, here, go play with, do whatever.
His dad was an electrician, and then his mom was an alcoholic and apparently not a great person, so I don't know. I mean, then again, you can't, I mean, I guess you could keep track of your child at all times. That's what people should do.
Yeah. He has said that his secret about the cat gave him a sense of pleasure, and he killed another cat later on after it grew a liking to his younger sister even more.
Yeah. Oh, you're not my favorite? Murder. Also, why is it always cats? They're always killing cats.
Ed Kemper had more unnatural behaviors going on other than the animal abuse. He would remove dolls' heads and hands, wanted to kiss a teacher but said he'd have to kill her first, and played games with his sisters called Gas Chamber and Electric Chair, where they would pretend to be suffering through those types of deaths.
That's not a normal game.
No.
That's not a normal game to like act like you're suffocating.
I mean, out of all three of those things, I feel like that would be the least of every other thing.
Well, saying you want to kiss your teacher, but you got to kill her first. It's weird. It's like necrophilia already.
Ed's parents split up in 1957 and he was forced to live with his mother, who he hated. Ed claims his mother was controlling, both emotionally and physically abusive, as well as an alcoholic. He hated how she treated him and belittled him. Clarnell, Ed's mother, would lock Ed in the basement, claiming he would hurt his sisters and would show him no affection so that he wouldn't turn out gay.
Yeah, I don't like that. Separating the child because he's the only boy, think he's gonna molest his sisters for no reason. He never did anything like that. Is really fucked up.
And I'm wondering, how did she get custody of them in the first, like all the kids?
The dad didn't want him.
Oh.
Like,
yeah, but she was...
He got remarried and started a new life, had new kids. One had new life, so he didn't want anything to do with them anymore. But like, you think he's gonna molest his sisters, so you lock him in the basement? He never did anything towards them, as far as we can tell.
Yeah.
Also, we have all this information because Ed's done a lot of interviews and stuff. Also, if you've seen this show Mindhunter, he's one of the main characters in there. Like, the guy who played him got an Emmy and everything. It's a really good show. Also, the guy looks just like Ed Kemper.
At the age of 14, Ed was sent to live with his paternal grandparents on a ranch in North Fork, California. He hated living with his grandmother, saying she emasculated himself and his grandfather. On August 27th, 1964, at the age of 15, Ed got in an argument with his grandmother, stormed out, grabbed his hunting rifle given to him by his grandfather, and shot his grandmother in the head, twice in the back, and also stabbed her a few times after death. He really hated her.
Yeah, she didn't want him to have the gun anymore. She was trying to talk him out of having it, and so
Probably
he
a good
lost
move.
it. Yeah, this dude's scary as shit. Let me take this away from him. And it got her murdered.
Ed did not want his grandfather to have to live with the knowledge that his wife was dead, so he shot him as well. After both grandparents were dead, Ed called his mom asking what he should do, then called the local police and waited to be arrested.
He apparently was like just waited on the porch. He was very polite to the police officers, they said.
So basically he killed...
He didn't like the grandmother, killed her, and then was like,
his
"Oh,
grandfather.
I don't want my grandfather to have to know the love of his life
Okay,
is
so he
dead."
continues killing. Okay, good to go.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely not the end of the story here.
Yeah.
We would not be here if someone just killed their
Yeah,
grandparents.
it wouldn't be considered a serial murder if it was just two people.
No. But, like, he didn't want his grandfather to live with the fact that his wife was dead, so he just killed him too, right in the driveway. Dude was loading in groceries in the house, got murdered.
Man.
I know, right? No one likes loading in groceries, then you die at the same time.
Psychiatrist Donald Lund explained that Ed's actions were in a way avenging the rejection of both of his parents. Ed was only 15, so he was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic and sent to a state hospital for 6 years. While locked away, IQ tests performed on Ed proved his intelligence, with scores of 136 and 145 the second time around. Wow, he was smart.
He's a literal genius.
Yeah. Ed had a peaceful way about him and thought differently than most criminals they had dealt with before, so he got along great with everyone there. On December 18th, 1969, on Ed's 21st birthday, he was released on parole, even though it was not recommended by his doctors. He was forced to live with his mother. Really? With his smarts? Ed attended community college and tried to pursue a career as a police officer, but was denied because of his size, but befriended a lot of the cops around town and hung out at the cops' bars.
Isn't that interesting?
A little bit. I mean, you killed two people.
He wanted to be a state trooper, but he was 15 years old when this was committed, so his records were sealed. No one knew what he did.
They probably weren't even sealed. They were probably just... Well, no, they were sealed. That's right. They weren't minors, so they wouldn't have been expunged.
Well, they said that, like, he's such a smart guy. We can't imagine why he would ever do this. We don't think he's a danger. Sealed his records so it wouldn't affect his future as an adult. But, like, he wanted to be a state trooper. I think that was really interesting. But he wouldn't fit in the car. Well, he wouldn't take him. He wouldn't fit in any of the uniforms of the car.
That's messed up.
I know. You think it's size of liability, but I think...
Of course, now they got SUVs.
Yeah, but now I feel like, they can make an outfit for a guy that big. It'd probably be good from the force as intimidation.
So he hung out at the cops' bars, even gaining a nickname from them, Big Ed.
Simple.
Oh, yeah. Ed could befriend all kinds of people in town, but still had horrendous fights with his mother over any little thing. Between May 1972 and April 1973, Ed Kemper killed 8 people. He would pick up hitchhiking female students, drive them out of sight, and shoot, stab, smother, or strangle them. He took home the bodies, decapitated them, had relations with their heads through their mouths.
Yeah, that's saying that. We're just glossing over the fact that he fucked their heads.
Yes. He had relations with the rest of the bodies and then took them apart to dispose of them.
Are we not talking about the fact that he fucked their decapitated heads?
Yes, but we're
Yes,
keeping
it's
it.
horrible. Yes, I feel really bad for all the victims, but this dude took a head off and put his dick in it.
Yeah.
What the hell? Like, that's not a thing people do. And then you're like, oh, that's not enough. Let me use the rest of the body that I chopped away from it.
Doesn't let anything go to waste.
Oh my God.
Just joking, by the way.
I know. I mean, people are going to say that's offensive, but we got to make light of the situation.
I know. No,
Gotta
yeah,
make
it
light
is-
of it.
that-
But he fucked the heads.
It's horrible.
Yeah. But I've never heard of someone doing that before. I think that's why I find this guy interesting, because he, like, was different.
What's so weird is that he probably got away with it for a little bit just because of the fact that he made friends with the cops. So he established a relationship so the cops wouldn't be like, oh, this is something that he, went back to, whatever.
Well, when you're in a freaking genius, you can charm anybody and you know how to work people.
I feel like if they wouldn't have sent him back home with his mother, he might have had a chance of actually going
Absolutely.
back to a
Especially if you
normal
want to be a
life.
cop. He might
Yeah.
have really had a chance here. But his mom also worked at a local college, so he had like a parking sticker in his car. So students would be like, oh, he's one of us.
Oh, is that probably why? Because I'll say with an IQ like that, you shouldn't be going to community college.
He only went to community college because they couldn't afford a real one.
Yeah.
He didn't know what he wanted to do. But, like, yeah, he got a sticker from his mom's, like, place of work just so he could say that he's, like, from these different schools, and it would make them more trustworthy.
Yeah. Ed has done a ton of interviews over the years and has talked about how he wanted to pick up a girl and drop her off safely, but he couldn't do it. He started taking a gun with him and even got locked out of the car by accident while he was kidnapping Aikoku, but was able to get her to let him back in and strangled her to death. He got pulled over by a cop with 2 bodies in the trunk for a broken tail light. That seems about how it happens.
Yeah, right? It's always a traffic violation with these serial killers. Ted Bundy did the same thing.
He offered to let the cop take a look to see if a wire was loose, but was able to get off with a warning instead. People were really charmed by Ed and how well-spoken he was, which is probably why he was never on a police's radar. That and probably the fact he was friends with most of them.
Well, you can sit in the bar and be like, what you know, casually.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ed Kemper's an incel, right? I totally think he's like one of those fucking people who is like, well, no one's ever gonna want me, blah, 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 hates women for the fact that, like, he's not getting laid, and the fact that his mother tells him he's a piece of shit all the time. Like, he blames women for everything.
Well, pretty much the only 2 women that he's really known in his life, grew up wise anyways, during the actual
killed one of them.
development.
He killed one.
Exactly. So
yeah, but he has a real hatred for women, I think.
I can understand
It's pretty
that.
obvious.
On April 20th, 1973, Ed Kemper's mother, Clennell, came home from a party, woke him up, and when he passed by her room, she said to him, I suppose you're going to want to sit up all night and talk now. He replied, no, good night, and then came back in once she was asleep and beat her to death with a claw hammer, slit her throat, decapitated her, violated her head, and then threw darts at it. He really had to go and violate the head of his mom?
He threw so many darts in it that it actually
He
collapsed.
He can't decapitate it and then just, go on about it. He's really got to
He fucked
violate
his
it.
mom's head. There's no other way to say it.
Violate seems pretty...
Okay, well, yeah, but like it doesn't violate to me doesn't say how fucked up it is.
Oh no, the rest of
The
it
bluntness
says
of
that.
it. Yeah, I mean, he threw so many darts at it and then ended up punching it in that the whole head collapsed.
It continues. He took his mother's tongue and vocal cords, tried to force them down the garbage disposal, but it wouldn't work. He knew his mother was the source of his violent nature and thought by killing her, he was saving the lives of innocent girls from his wrath. At this point, it's not going to matter. It's so deep-seated
I
in
do
your
understand what he's
psyche.
saying, though. He kept killing people because he hated his mother in his life.
I get it.
And also, apparently when he took the tongue and the vocal cords and tried to shove it down the garbage disposal, it spit back up, and he thought that was pretty, I guess...
Symbolic.
Yeah, it was pretty symbolic of how she's always yelling at him and spitting back out at him.
After killing his mother, Ed stuffed her body into a closet and went out for a drink to think about his next move. Since he wasn't the closest one to his mother, he decided to make a plan to kill his mother's best friend to make it look like they just left somewhere together.
Which they had done before.
Yeah. He invited Sally Hallett over to the house saying they were going to have dinner and watch a movie with his mother, but instead, Ed Kemper strangled her to death, then left a note on the door.
And this is what the note said.
Approximately 5:15 a.m. Saturday, no need for her to suffer anymore at the hands of this horrible, murderous butcher. It was quick, asleep, the way I wanted it, not sloppy and incomplete. Gents, just a lack of time. I got things to do.
Yeah, so he was leaving it on the door. He put both the bodies in a closet, left it on the door so people would find it and be like, you know, she doesn't have to suffer anymore. She was asleep when it happened. I gotta go. So I guess he was really running from this whole, like, I can't be connected to these crimes. Then he was like, oh shit, this isn't gonna work. So he ran.
Yeah. Kemper took a bunch of caffeine pills and drove over 1,000 miles to Puebla, Colorado with 3 guns, hundreds of rounds of ammo, and waited for the manhunt to begin. But it didn't. And he heard nothing over the radio or in the newspapers about what he had done. Ed Kemper simply went into a phone booth as best he could with his size, called the police, and confessed to the 2 murders he just committed. But the police thought it was a joke and told him to call back later.
Yeah, he actually was in a different state when he called, but he called his local police department. They're like, oh, Ed, you silly goose. You know, don't call us. We know you.
Kemper did call back hours later and asked for a cop friend of his specifically, then confessed again. Then once in custody, confessed to the 6 female students' murders as well.
Oh, also, he was in a telephone booth, right, when he called in and he waited for the police to come, the local police to get him. He's so tall that when he stood up, he just rested the top of his arms on top of the fucking phone booth.
I don't think that's so much the same as how tall he is. I'm pretty sure at that point, that phone booth's just short.
But normal people just walk into the phone booth at like 5'10" and just walk in and stand in there normally. This man had to crouch in there, and then when he stood up, he was over the booth. 6'9" is like tall. That's over a foot taller than you.
Ed Kemper was charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder in May of 1973, and he was sentenced to death, which California's Supreme Court overturned, and he was inevitably sentenced to 7 years to life for each count. Ed actually asked the court for a sentence of death by torture. He confessed to murder, the sex acts, cannibalism by putting leg flesh into a casserole, and said he killed his victims for himself like possessions. Really? And that only warranted
7 years for each
at
count.
minimum 7 years per count.
Yeah, times 8. 7 times 8 is 48. He's been in jail for 48 years now, technically. But like, he also did later recant the cannibalism, but he might have just been ashamed of it. He's okay with fucking heads, but eating it's just a whole different level, huh?
Gotta draw the line somewhere.
Yes.
In the California medical facility, Kemper was incarcerated in the same prison block as Hubert Mullen and Charles Manson.
You know who either of those people are?
I know Charles Manson.
Okay, fair enough.
I can't remember why, but I know the Manson family, like the Manson murders. Didn't he kill his family? I can't remember.
No.
What was Charles Manson known for?
Fake family of hippies killed people, including Sharon Tate. We just talked about Roman Polanski the other day, honey.
Yeah, no, I don't remember.
Okay, well, that was my first cult that I was interested in, so I know.
But I don't know Herbert Mullen.
He was just a psychopath. He killed 13 people.
He really disliked Mullen for killing anyone he saw for no good reason and ended up manipulating him to behave how he wanted in prison.
Yeah, this man would I guess Mullen would sing in prison, and Kemper didn't like that shit. So when he shut up, he would throw peanuts to his shell, because this man liked peanuts. And that's how you prison negotiate. So when he shut the fuck up, he would get a peanut tossed at him and like a good boy. Like a fucking dog.
Yes, it's called positive reinforcement.
Yes,
He
like a
trained
fucking
this dude
puppy.
like a dog.
This man randomly killed 13 people, and all you have to do to shut him up in jail is throw a peanut at him.
Well, you know the sad part is it actually works. As long as the person doesn't realize what you're doing, positive reinforcements do work.
Peanut.
As long as they don't realize that's what it is.
I guess if you're in a cell next to this dude, he won't shut the fuck up. Do what you can.
Because eventually, subconsciously, their psyche will start to be like, if I'm quiet, I'll get a reward.
I get a treat.
Yeah.
It's like a puppy.
But he doesn't know. The sad part is that actually works. Kemper is seen as a model prisoner and is kept in general population, setting appointments for other prisoners to see their doctors, making ceramic cups, and recording audiobooks for the blind, to which he stopped doing in 2015 after being disabled from a stroke.
So he recorded over 7,000 audiobooks.
Bruh.
So he's got time to do this shit. It's been like 40 years, but like, I know you don't like when they have a good life inside prison, so I included that specifically for you, honey.
Kemper, along with Ed Gein, were the inspiration for Buffalo Bill.
From one of my favorite movies, Silence of the Lambs. You know I love that movie. I had to include that little fun
We
fact.
just watched it like a week ago.
Yeah, and we're gonna keep watching it because
fine.
it's so good.
Sure.
It's so good. But like, I love the character Buffalo Bill, so I had to include the fact that him and Ed Gein did inspire that character.
He is alive today at 72 years old. 10 victims total, 8 in the 1970s plus his grandparents.
And then again, he was in the show Mindhunter. So if you see the show Mindhunter, the big dude with a weird mustache is Ed Kemper, and the accuracy of that show, it's ridiculous. Also, that him being interviewed so much by the FBI in his early days of incarceration did help criminal profiling as a whole. So the stereotypical serial killers hate their parents, they have a neglectful childhood, they torture animals, they do this, they do that, was inspired by Ed Kemper's profile in general. So he was like, what you see as stereotypical serial killer shit was inspired by him. So what do you think, honey?
I am conflicted.
Okay, what are you conflicted by? I see his reasoning, all right? I see that.
He's a bad putty cat.
Yes.
Yeah. So normally I'm all about the death sentence.
Right.
I'm all about, getting done with it. However, he did do a lot of good, but then again, at the same time, I mean, if there's stuff to be done, somebody else can do it.
Yeah.
So
I feel like he had a chance in life. Like, okay,
Yeah.
he snapped at 15. I'm all for trying to redo people, like
Yeah.
fix people. And maybe if they didn't assign him to his mother, who he
Yeah.
hated, things could have been different. And then he was trying to stay away from killing family members again, so he did it to random people. He did pick up over 100 hitchhikers, and only 6 of them died. So, I mean, it's not a good track record. Don't kill anybody. I'm just saying he tried. But impulses are hard for some people. So I'm conflicted on it. And the fact that he's a paranoid schizophrenic by, like, being diagnosed with it, I feel like he's not completely liable for his actions.
did they give him medications or anything for it?
I don't know. They did while he was incarcerated. Did his mother pay for them after he was out? I'm not sure. He was going to community college to keep up his, he was released on parole. So that was part of his parole, is he would go to school or get a job. That's why he went to the community college. And they couldn't afford a real college for his intelligence. So I'm conflicted on it as well. I'm glad he didn't get the death penalty personally, because he is trying to do his best in there. He's like a good member of the prison population. He tries to help people. He also helps out guards and stuff with small tasks. I don't think there's any saving his grandparents after his childhood issues. But if he had been rehabilitated the proper way and gone out with someone who cared about him, maybe.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, sitting with your mother every day telling you're a piece of shit and like isolating you from the rest of your family, thinking you're gonna molest someone when you never did anything, is pretty fucked. Also, isolation is terrible in a child.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, thank you so much for joining me for today's case. I find this case very interesting personally. I never get tired of it. So did you like this one?
Yeah, very detailed.
Yeah, it's way better than like the Jacksonville Strangler case we did, where there wasn't much info.
Yeah.
Now we know where this guy came from. And he's still alive. Honestly, okay, so like we just
go
talked about
visit him.
That's what I was thinking. Like, that's what I was about to say. Like, the fun fact of like people glamorizing serial killers having attraction to them, I don't get. But I would like to meet one. Just for the psychological aspect of it. And Ed Kemper would be the one, because he's so articulate and stuff, that I would like to meet, even though, they're not a celebrity, you shouldn't glamorize them.
Have fun. See you when you get back.
Thanks. All right, thank you guys.
Bye.